Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Nedling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Nedling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I have with me Dorothy Mashburn, and let me tell you about Dorothy. She is a leading authority in negotiation who has a burning mission to champion the underserved at corporate tables and close the gender pay gap. Oh, we could talk about that for days. With a track record of negotiating pivotal deals with global giants and managing international teams, her unique insights empower minorities and women to achieve their dream jobs and salaries. Of course, wouldn't be my Find Your Leadership Confidence unless I had this as confidence mastery as the title. So we're going to talk about confidence mastery. Please join me welcoming my guest, Dorothy Mashburn. Hi, Dorothy.
Hi, Vicki. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Yes, negotiation is not something people often run to. It's often they run away from it. People just don't like what is perceived as potential tension or stress. But I think if you do things right, it can avoid some of that and come out with a good outcome. So I'm anxious to have you share some of your wisdom and your experience with the audience.
Absolutely. That is, you hit the nail on the head. A lot of people run away from negotiations because historically or in media, negotiation has been portrayed as this high octane, extremely aggressive, tactic-oriented, aggressive maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
But really, negotiation needs to be reframed in society and in media as a conversation that allows two parties to find mutually beneficial solutions.
Yeah. And do it in a way that doesn't bring on the stress and anxiety.
Exactly. And especially for women as entrepreneurs or as executives, we have learned from the playbook of men because that's who wrote the books, right? The negotiation books, the negotiation trainings, the seminars, all of the leaders of this field have talked about in terms of masculine energy, masculine leadership traits, and that's fine, right? But we've got for them, yeah, but it's a little bit different for us. We face different challenges. And so that's why I do what I do, is to translate some of those words or concepts into ways that work for female personalities, our type of leadership. And again, very generally speaking about these concepts, that we all have different ways of doing things. But generally speaking, my work is about translating and making negotiation skills accessible to everyone.
Very good. So let's step back a minute. I always ask an easy question to start, and that is just share with the audience where you are living right now.
I live in Phoenix, Arizona. Beautiful,
nice.
sunshiny days here right now, and no cold or anything like that.
Well, the evenings get chilly there.
They do. You're right. They do, for us anyway, because we're used to the heat. Yeah.
Yes. Desert always is cooler. So give us a little bit of background or the journey that you took to get you where you are today to become this expert in negotiations. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah. So I am a immigrant from India, a small remote village in the foothills of the Himalayas.
Mm.
And very, 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 very remote, very few people from over there, over in the western side. I started my journey in undergrad school. And at that time, I didn't have, other than the classroom education, there was not a lot of social support or a social structure to help me understand corporate dynamics, how
Yeah.
to navigate, how to, speak up, be visible,
Mm-hmm.
navigate challenges, navigate politics. And so I am sort of the person I needed 20 years ago for people who are trying to do the same. And over time, I fell into a lot of negotiations. Over the years, now I do about 100 to 200 deals a year. And so over the years, I've done over 500 negotiations, and I work with a lot of executives from different companies, Fortune 500 companies. And I also manage a team. And over the years, I've really, people reach out to me all the time to ask about, hey, I'm negotiating this. Can you provide some insights? Or I'm asking for a promotion. Can you help me use the right talk tracks? And I realized that I was using a lot of my practice that I do in negotiations on business deals on
Mm-hmm.
applying them to salary negotiations and confidence mastery. And so that's when, like, during the pandemic, I really started thinking about a business model where I would provide this as a service, and I did, and I started my business about a year ago, and it has been extremely fulfilling and rewarding, having so many women reach out and say, "Hey, I need help."
And I just want to kind of talk a little bit. You're from a small town. Talk to the audience about some of the challenges that you had to overcome because, all right, so you're from India, culture in a small town is probably limiting, if you will. And now you have to stand up to these big executives that think, first of all, you're a woman. Second of all, I don't know how tall you are, but maybe you're not as tall as they
Yeah, it's
are.
like 5'3". Yeah,
Yeah. So,
on a
okay. So
good
you're
day.
a small woman and you uh, uh, have a great credentials. Maybe you're just starting out. And so, what are some of the things that you learned that really helped you get that mindset where it needed to be so you could be confident? You knew what you knew and that you could help them make things better.
Yeah. I'll give you a story. I was sitting, this is in a early, maybe about 15 years ago. I was sitting in the boardroom. It was one of my first negotiations in a boardroom, sitting across, it's a giant, I guess it's one of the big companies like GE Philips type companies. I'm sitting across some of their executives, all in black suits, and
Mm-hmm.
I had to negotiate a deal with them. And of course, inside, the person who is who's feeling like the imposter, who's
Mm-hmm.
feeling like that I don't belong and somebody's going to call me out, that I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting there. I remember just nervous as can be. Um, I am convinced somebody's going to say, "Excuse me, can you go sit on the side of the table?" But I'm leading the negotiation, and I guess, fortunately or unfortunately, my CEO at that time was supposed to lead it, and he got called away to another meeting. So I had
Ah,
prepped everything. I just wasn't going to be the leader. But since he stepped away, I had to step in, and I wasn't ready to lead it, but I also knew that this was my chance, and I wasn't going to lose my chance. A lot of it is
yeah.
intent. About confidence is, you do it through your fear. I've
Mm-hmm.
found. And so I was sure sitting there, like shivering in my shoes, thinking somebody's going to say, it's like, go sit at this table, the kids' table.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did at that time was I went to the restroom, and there was this technique called parking your fears. And that's what I did. I didn't know that's what I was doing at that time, but you basically find a parking lot and you put all your anxieties, all your fears, and say, I'm going to come back to you, not yet, and you put it in a box in a parking lot. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
That has really, that was the first time that I did it. And now I teach that technique to my clients as to how to park your fears, and then just tell your fears that you'll come back to them. They're not gone. They're
Right.
just parked for now.
Right. And I think as you were telling this story, it just made me realize that your boss was confident in you, because he would
Yes,
not have he would have canceled that meeting, rescheduled it, but he knew you could do it. And I always talk when I teach confidence to my folks that I'll believe in you until you believe in yourself. And so that's what he did for you. He believed you could do this. And in the back of your mind, you had to have understood that, maybe subconsciously. Okay, I can't let him down because he thinks I can do this. So
absolutely.
I'm going to do this.
That is such a good point. And you look back at that time, you're a nervous wreck.
Yes.
But then you look back and you're so grateful for those opportunities that somebody
Yeah.
opened doors for you and somebody believed in you. And it's so true, absolutely true.
Yeah. I know. My first job as a supervisor, the paperwork was filled out by my boss, and he said, sign here. And I was like, I don't know that I could. And he says, you got this. And, I wasn't going to let him down. So, and it was as for you, the best thing that ever happened to me to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
S-
The thing is, though, you made the decision to not let him down. So a part of
Yeah.
it is you as well, like your intention and your
Mhm.
decision to do that.
Right. So oftentimes, whenever we are up for our yearly evaluations, or even looking for a job, going out, and you'll get that question, well, how much do you expect to be paid?
Mhm.
And we as women often give a number that's far lower than we're worth. So how, or what do you answer to the question, what are your salary expectations?
Yeah. That is a question. It's funny because about 2 hours ago, I had a call with a client and we were talking about that. And there is a lot of literature that goes both ways. You can deflect, where you
Yes.
can say, let's talk about the role first. Or you can anchor by putting out a big number out there, and the conversation gets, wrapped around that bigger number.
Mm-hmm.
There are no right or wrong answers, but what I've found with working with women is that number usually, if you throw out, is relatively small than what you're truly worth. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
worth 325,000, most women would probably say 260. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
huge difference. So when you're anchoring, unless you have solid data and you know for a fact that you can truly speak up for your worth, then I would recommend taking the second route, which is understand what the role is about,
Yeah.
because that gives you an idea about what price tag to put on it. And so
Yeah.
what you would say is this is, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my salary expectations. I'd like to understand more about the role, what it entails, because generally there's a lot more than the job description. I'd like to get to understand each other, the culture, and what I can do to help move the needle forward. And then you let them talk and just stop
Right.
talking after that.
So the other side of this is for we entrepreneurs. We have to create programs and courses and different packages, coaching packages and things, and don't always do a great job at pricing that either. We may write down the number what we think it should be, but then when it comes to negotiating with the potential client for that, if they're not in agreement right away, they don't recognize your worth right away, that number could get lowered by you or them. So
Yes.
talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. My recommendation is never discount your services, because when you start working the discounting game, you are then discounting your worth. So what I would say is, when you do run into a client who is questioning, so say your package is worth 100,000, and I'm making this up, um, and you start doing, oh, really, 80,000, 70,000. First of all, there's no bottom to that. You'll continue to
Mhm.
discount. It's a race to the bottom. And second of all, you're then saying that, you're not Gucci, or you're not Louis Vuitton,
Mhm.
you're
Right.
something else. And so what needs to change is not your price point. What needs to change is your sales pitch and your client who you're attracting. So if
Mhm.
that person is saying, well, you're worth only 50,000 to me, well, then, that's not the client that you want.
Right, right.
And it's hard, because we all have bills to pay. We all want a successful career, successful entrepreneurship. But that's the thesis that you should work with.
Yeah. That reminds me of whenever I worked for a fast food chain, and we used to give, and this is in the 80s. So we used to give away free coupons for you. And I would have customers come in or email me at the corporate office and ask for free coupons that they wouldn't buy with us unless they got free coupons. And it's like, but you like our products. Why don't you
Yeah,
just pay for our products? But they wanted free. And so we stopped giving away free coupons
exactly.
as a reward because it was setting a precedence and expectation that, our fries or whatever you're not going to get unless you get a coupon. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's attracting the wrong client. And I went to MBA school in the 2000s, and by then I think the businesses had enough data points where they were talking about firing your customer. And it's kind of I guess, a tough way to say
yeah,
you want to attract the right customers to your business.
yeah. One of my coaches always says, I don't work with jerks. And I think that's something, as you said, it's hard to walk away from potential
Mhm.
business. But if that potential business is going to bring you heartache, or that person is constantly going to question your program cost and things,
Yeah.
then they aren't the right customer for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not feeling the value and benefit of what you bring. And so they can find someone else to help
Yeah.
them, and you can move
Yeah.
on.
Exactly. So what I do is, with my client services, clients 10x or 12x their investment that they make with me. So I have no problem believing that that is a solid ROI for my
Hmm.
for my clients. Like, I don't worry that I'm trying to take advantage of them, or I'm charging something that is, out of sync. I can deliver results. And so, if the same way, if you think about your business and say, if my clients are getting 10 to 15x what investment they're making in me, then I should not hesitate to quote my price.
Yeah, for sure. So when do you walk away? You're negotiating, say you're negotiating for a salary, negotiating for big client. When do you know in your gut that it's just time to walk away, that this is not going to go anywhere?
Yeah, yeah. The couple of things is, when we teach negotiation, we also talk about an option B. So you're creating simultaneously a second option. So say you're an entrepreneur, you have two customers, one who you think has the pocketbook and can pay you, and one you don't know yet. So between the two, the likelihood is that you're going to go after the customer that's going to pay you more, because your
Mhm.
option B may or may not be very solid. However, if your first option starts looking like your option B, so when those two things become equal, it's time to walk away. So
Mhm.
that's the concept. And in salary negotiation, if or say, let's say a pay raise discussion, like performance reviews are coming
Right.
up, and you're
Mhm.
asking for a pay raise because you've done all of these things. So, like, number one, two, three, four, five things you've done for the company that's helped revenue, costs, efficiencies, and you're asking for a pay raise, and they deny it. And then you say, what else can you do? Like, so maybe budgets are tight. What else can you do? And say you get a non-committal answer. You'll start knowing that there's not a lot of future with this manager or this company or this role, because you're going to go dead end after dead end after dead end.
Right.
And that's when you say, I'm going to go become an entrepreneur, or I'm going to look for my second job,
Elsewhere.
or look elsewhere. So that's like the clues that they'll tell you.
And whenever we talk about salary negotiations, and you talked about end of year reviews, and thinking about this new environment that we have with remote workers, and your manager, boss, supervisor doesn't see you every day, what should you become armed with? And I would say, if you don't have it now, at the start of the year, what should you anticipate you should have in your arsenal for that conversation, that discussion, to be able to stand up to what you would like or what
Yeah.
you feel you deserve?
Yeah, you should approach your performance review discussion like a business, like you're going to go get an investment for a business. You should have all the things you did for your company last year and how that correlated to the business growth. So a lot of women, especially, tend to get very busy with doing things. We love multitasking, keeping our hands busy, keeping our minds busy, but not all of it will translate to what the company
Dollars.
recognizes as value.
Mhm.
So it's first of all, if you haven't done this, be intentional in 2024 about doing only the things that the company values as value add, or has some sort of long-term payoff for you. And like if you've already done that last year, go in with a one pager. Here are like 10 things I did, and this is how it improved the company.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that's what you go with when you go in to talk to your manager.
Yeah. And if you're a manager out there, I would suggest that you have that same one pager to be able to at least share, what did you see? For my people, I had all the things that they did well
Yeah.
documented, as well as areas that I thought that could be improved upon. I didn't want to only focus on the negative, because I wanted them to see that I do see you. I do see what you're contributing, and I appreciate that, and I want that to continue. But there are areas that were maybe holding you back, and as personal development, I want you to be aware of those so that we can work together to have that change.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And you want to have it as a conversation, right? Like, let me show you the path to your dreams, like whatever it
Yeah.
is. Here are all the things you're doing right, and here is the gap that you can work on this year to help you bridge and get to wherever it is that that person wants to get to.
Yeah. And that's especially helpful when you do have a high performer,
Mm-hmm.
but you can see that there's some anxiety or frustration, but you know that things will change, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to lose them.
Yeah.
And so, as a negotiator, how I think it's important that you be able to share some of the vision that you have and see if you can sway that person to stay a little longer, unless it's no longer the right time for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talk a lot about in negotiation and leadership, we talk a lot about emotional intelligence and emotional balance. A lot of high performers, and I find this in my day-to-day job, are very quick to learn and very quick to master a particular task or a role. And then they get antsy, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, now what's next? What's next?
Mhm.
And one of the things that I work on with my team is that emotional balance. Like, yes, you can master the technique, but do you have self-control, self-mastery to be, to be present at hard situations, have those tough conversations and negotiations? And that's where we can find the gaps and help them bridge that gap and get to kind of their full potential.
Right. And that's the ultimate thing that we want.
Yeah.
So we talked about confidence, and one of my areas that I work on, folks, is charisma. You know, when you walk in that room, people take notice? So talk about confidence and charisma and how you can build that.
Yeah. The start of any of this is being good with yourself, right? Unless you truly believe in yourself, truly believe in your expertise, like I was at that boardroom table, right? I wasn't confident. I didn't know but what I had to get back to is I know what I'm doing here, and so you have to find in your core that whatever it is that you're walking into, you are good with it. Like, your subject, the people. And if you don't, prepare, right? Don't go in, winging it,
Yes.
because you're not going to feel confident then. And especially for women, there's a concept of fake it till you make it, but I would argue that you can't fake it unless you do the preparation, unless you know the players, and unless you seed, what it is that you're trying to do ahead of time with the players there. So I would say that's a tactic that I would use. And I call it shadow negotiation. So you like plant a seed, so you have support. And so when you walk in, you already know the people. So you're not walking into the unknown. And then, there are all kinds of like research out there where you have body language, where you're talking with palms forward when you're trying to invite somebody to have a discussion. You are having eye contact, you're actively listening. All of those add to your charisma. And we do a lot of work on that with people to get that. And there's a literature, and then there's a practice. Once you start practicing, that really helps you get that confidence and charisma.
And it is the tone and empathy and demonstration that you're listening to understand and not listening to just give notice where the break is so you can say 100 things more to look brilliant. And in the fact that if you're not listening, you may say something. And I've been in meetings like this where they responded with nothing about where the conversation was going. It was just what they wanted to say next, and derailed the conversation.
Yeah. And part of it is because we have double binds that we face, right? If we're too quiet, we're seen as too meek.
Yes.
I'm talking about women, right?
Yes.
So we overcompensate by talking too much, but the opposite is true. Like, the quieter you are, the more self-assured you seem, and the more confident you seem.
Absolutely.
So there's a balance.
So how do you then build that executive presence? We used to say, dress for the job you want, act like the position you want. So how do you build that executive presence? And I think, you have your corporate executive, you have your entrepreneur. There are different, but I guess it's for the job that you want in that leadership position, maybe is a better way to say.
Yeah. Yeah. Executive presence, there are various components to what makes up what we perceive as executive presence. And the literature, there's 6 or 7 different components, but generally speaking, it's how you project your voice. So the gravitas in your voice, that's one. How you dress. Those are sort of the easy ones to master. Then, are you doing more or are you planning more? So if you're a doer, you're not seen as having executive presence. But if you are a planner and vision builder, you're seen as somebody with presence. I would say the difference between the masculine and feminine energy. So if you're trying to be somebody you're not, so if you're coming off as super aggressive and that's not your style, so that fakeness, so removing the fakeness and really being authentically you, and that's being thrown around a lot nowadays. But what I see it as, who are you when you feel the safest, right? How do you sound? How do you feel? Bring that self to every occasion, and you'll be authentically you. Like, who are you with your friends? Who are you with your family? So that's another component of executive presence. And then the final one, most important, is that emotional balance. How do you react to negativity? How do you react if somebody tells you no? How do you rebound from it? So that's like the final component of it.
Right. And I always liken, whenever you feel you allow yourself to be yourself, you are comfortable in your skin, that's when you appear the most confident.
Yes.
And for me, it really was around age 50 that I no longer cared what anybody was trying to make me into or do with me or rise up to. I just knew what I wanted to be and who I wanted to be. And if I couldn't be it where I was, I would go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that feeling, that assurance just was this whole aura about you that
Mhm.
people then all of a sudden the doors opened everywhere and it was like, okay, I'm the person that I've always been, but really it was how you were presenting yourself that changed.
And don't you wish you could go back, like tell
Mm.
your 30-year-old
Oh,
self to like, come
yeah.
on, you shouldn't care as much. I mean, you
Hmm.
care,
Yeah.
but you don't care to a point where it's detrimental to your own
Oh,
confidence.
right, right. I mean, and that's why I do what I do now. The whole idea of the podcast and my courses and training and everything is I don't want people to wait till they're 50.
Yeah.
I want to teach you that in your teens and in your 20s so that you can make wonderful things throughout your whole life, not just towards the last uh, chapter, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how else do women self-sabotage their negotiations?
Yeah. So one big area, not just negotiations, careers as well. Women tend to the one, and again, I'm speaking very generally here, so bear with me. Women tend to, like I've said before, stay very busy. And so I was talking to a client, a potential client, and she was saying, I'm already working 70 hours. Like you
Mhm.
can't possibly expect me to work more. And she, she's making around 120, and based on her experience and her skill sets, we estimated that she could be making 250, 260. And she equated that higher salary with more work.
Yeah.
She couldn't on her own understand that you work hard, but you don't have to work all the time.
Right.
So that's a leap, interestingly, for
Mhm.
women to make. They feel like to make the 260, proportionately their workload is going to
Yeah.
increase, and they're already putting in so many hours. So how are they going to find more hours? And that's something we have to reframe in our minds.
Right. I hear that all the time. How could you do all the things that you do? And and I don't work 24/7.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
and I do in this early stages of my business, I do things that I will be forming out to VAs because it's
Yeah.
not bringing in money. It's busy work, admin work, whatnot, but it has to be done.
Yep.
And so I think that's the leap that you were talking about earlier. You have to get that mindset of being that person who is operational and become strategic. And that's
Hmm.
when the money starts coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a tendency to be protective of our territories, and try to be good at everything, and myself included, right? I have to keep reminding myself that if
Yeah.
somebody is great at podcast engineering, I shouldn't have to learn that because they can do that work in, hundredth the time that I can. So I shouldn't have, and I can, get everybody to do 10%. So I get 1,000% from, so
Yeah.
many people versus I don't have 1,000% to give.
Right.
So it's really being strategic about how
Yeah.
you use resources, and that's going to serve you no matter what you're trying to do with life, right?
Hmm.
Whether you're trying to climb the corporate ladder or jump into entrepreneurship.
Very true. Well, time is flying by. We'll have to have you on again to just talk further about three different subjects that I can think of in my mind. But one rapid question in this last year, as you've taken on this new venture, new path in your journey, what lessons have you learned?
That's a good question. There's so many. Um, uh, the lesson, I think there is a lot more people with an abundance mindset out there than you find in your corporate life. So if you reach out like on LinkedIn, or like you and I found each other on Podmatch, people want to build communities,
Yeah.
and people are waiting to, are ready and willing and helpful to any reach outs. So it has been a very pleasant surprise. I've reached out to people who could be seen as competitors in my space. I've reached out to people who, who could be literally just take my business and copy it. But yet there is this spirit of community. And if you're trying to build your network, please don't be afraid. People are more than happy to help. And it's been a wonderful experience.
And I think that's an important message too, is that you should ask for help. You know, there are thousands of us coaches out there with all different things. You know, I teach leadership, I teach public speaking, you do what you do. But it's, who do you resonate with? Who do you
Exactly.
feel comfortable with? And go with that person. And don't be hesitant to try to reach out. You know, I always say that this is the best way to network. Test the water. See, do you have a connection with that person? And reach out to them. But you never know what magic will happen.
Absolutely. And it is magic. When you find that fit, it is
Yeah.
so much magic.
Yeah, so good. All right, it is time now for me to share my screen. As I always remind you, if you have not taken notes during this wonderful interview we've had, or conversation, shame on you, but go get your pencil paper right now, because I'm going to share my screen with contact information so that you can get in contact with Dorothy. So her website, hopefully you've got that pencil going, is https://www.dorothymashburn.com. And you can find out about her by just typing about Dorothy. But if you just go dorothymashburn.com, you will find it. Facebook, you can look up Dorothy Mashburn and you will find her. If you're looking at the screen, you can take a screenshot to get those numbers. That I don't know why Facebook does that to make it so confusing to us. Instagram, she is Dorothy Mashburn .negotiator, because that's what she does. Dorothy Mashburn .negotiator, Instagram. LinkedIn, she's Dorothy Mashburn and some numbers, but just search Dorothy Mashburn, you will find her. Pinterest, Fight for Your Worth. Fight for Your Worth on Pinterest. Twitter is _negotiate. TikTok is at Dorothy Mashburn, and so is YouTube at Dorothy Mashburn. I'm going to let Dorothy talk to you about what you will find when you go to the website and those various social media to help you grow in, maybe grow your salary and improve your negotiation skills.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Yeah, please go to my website, dorothymashburn.com. There is a lot of freebies under free training. There is so much free things that I want to make available, because I truly am on a mission to close the gender pay gap. And, if we don't have a good fit, I still want you to have the information at your fingertips, which is why I make it available for free. And then TikTok, I'm quite regular with posting tidbits on TikTok that you can find for pay raises, negotiating, interview preparation, how to anticipate questions in interviews and answer them like a negotiation professional. YouTube, I have a lot of guests on my podcast, Salary Negotiation Made Simple. And so YouTube has all of the video recordings that you can access. And then finally, my gift to you is dorothymashburn.com/ask for a raise. This is a step-by-step script that you can swipe today and use it for your performance reviews. A lot of companies are doing performance reviews. If they haven't already done them, they're coming up. So prepare yourself ahead of time. Preparation goes a long ways to get you set up. And so even if you go through it, practice it once, you'll feel so much more confident when you're asking for the money for the value that you bring. So go get it. Interestingly, this is one of my highest requested freebies on my website. Out of every 100 times somebody visits this site, 92 people have picked it up. So 92%, and people have really benefited. So go get it.
Awesome. Well, Dorothy, it's been wonderful chatting with you. And as I said, we can probably talk on a bunch of other things. I didn't even touch on the personal branding that you do on LinkedIn and how you can help people with that. So that's probably what we'll have to do next time you come around. But it's been wonderful chatting with you.
Absolutely, Vicki. Likewise, thank you for your wonderful questions and your great presence here. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And as I do always, I remind everyone that life is a journey and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Nettling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Nettling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.